could be a way where they're connecting with their kids, listening to the music, and that's helping them heal some trauma, or maybe it could just be a way for them to.
Welcome to Fatherhood Voices, breaking the toxic cycle. Dive in as real dads bear all, the mess ups, make ups, and every heartfelt moment in between. It's raw, it's real, and it might just change the way you see family.
Welcome to another episode of Fatherhood Voices. So, of course, I have to have the oldies playing in the background because we have a very special guest today, and that's old school Becky Lu. And for those of you that know her, welcome. And she was privileged to be able to sit with Art Laboe in the last couple of years and then took over the Art Laboe Connection. So I'm so excited to have you here today because your audience just resonates so much with, our purpose and our vision. And I'm curious to just find out about you, your childhood, how you got started, and then how this, oldies, the connection, the genre between the old and the new, and how that is helping to heal families. Because I know in my home, there's for probably about 30 years now, it's Oldies Sunday, and that's the only thing anybody can listen to on Sundays. So that's kind of one of our traditions that we've kept going through the years. But welcome, Becky Lu, and glad to have you here. And if you want to go and introduce yourself and maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am honored. I just want to say thank you, first of all, Edward, for this opportunity to share not only about myself, but how we're keeping the Art Laboe Connection legacy going with Team Art Laboe and how we're helping connect generations, like you said. So we've got lots to talk about. And of course, the Art Laboe Familia, they'll be able to connect with these conversations that we're going to have as well. So we'll it's one big connection. That's why it's the Art Laboe Connection.
That's awesome. The one thing I do have to tell you is, when I look back at one of the interviews you did, and you were a big fan of, oldies and old school music. And I love the fact of how you made that transition. And it was just, and I'll let you tell the story, but it's just so powerful and inspirational for a Latina woman to just have a goal of, hey, I'm going to go out and do this, and how you made that connection at the office, and voila, look what happened. So I think that's a good place to start because that's empowering.
All right. So you want to hear the story of how this all came about. Okay.
Yes.
Once upon a time. No, I'm just kidding. I was working at Alpha Media a few years ago. It's a radio group in Palm Springs that owns a cluster of 8 radio stations. I was on the street team at the time helping with promotions, and I was out on a cruise with one of our station DJs. So we're talking, telling stories and whatnot. And back in the day, Art Laboe used to be on a different radio station. It was called KDES, KDES 104.7. And we were talking about those days and how he knew Art and whatnot. And he's like, hey, so-and-so is our receptionist. I'm just going to leave it at that. Worked for Art Laboe. And I said, are you kidding? Stop the car right now. Stop the car right now. So we got back to the studio. So-and-so was there. And I said, hey, I heard you work for Art Laboe. She said, yeah, I do. I was like, oh, well, what do you do? Tell me about it. I'm a call screener. We take the calls. We work with the mail. We work with the social media. And we work with Art Laboe. So I said, okay, are you guys hiring? As a matter of fact, we are. We're hiring on-call call screeners. So I got the interview with Jomo, our radio producer, who was Art Laboe's right-hand woman, still with us, still part of Team Art Laboe for almost 30 years. I interviewed with her, and I was hired that day. She had asked me what the Art Laboe Connection meant to me. And I started talking about one small portion, of course, there are the incarcerated families, but there's so many more fans, so many more listeners that resonate with the Art Laboe Connection. But that part, it made me cry, and I've never cried in an interview because at one point my brother was incarcerated. So it made me think of him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I cried in the interview, but I collected myself, and next thing you know, I had the job, and here I am 7 years later.
That's beautiful because it just showed that connection that you had, emotionally. So it wasn't just a job, but it resonated with
Yeah.
who you are growing up and so forth. And that's the power of music, that I've learned over time is how music, yes, it can be divisive, but it can also be very healing. And your energy is just incredible. Like, I can see why they would have hired you on the spot, of course, because the energy. So if you that had that ball of fire back even 7 years ago, then absolutely, the sky's the limit. So that's beautiful because it was just something that on impulse and you went and you did it. And that is a true testament. Man, if you really want something in life, just go out and do it. All you can do is ask.
Yeah.
And, very empowering, very empowering.
You know what's funny, Edward? Prior to working at Alpha Media, I was working in news as one of the producers. And we had long days. I started in the morning. I'd go in at 3 in the morning, actually, and we'd record the 5 o'clock newscast, the 6 o'clock newscast, the 9, and the 10. So in between those times, it was stressful working in news. I'm not going to lie. A lot of things are on your plate, a lot of rushing, a lot of changings and whatnot. Definitely adrenaline working in news. But on my downtime, I would go to YouTube and I'd type in dedicated to you, Art Laboe, and I would listen to the music to just soothe me because I was stressed or I was upset or something was going on. And the oldies is what would just make me happy and get my mind off things. I would go into some of the edit bays where the reporters would put together their stories. I'd go into an empty one, of course, and I would just blast the oldies. And they're like, oh, well, there's Rebecca. We know where she's at. So it resonated with me. And then a couple years later, that's when the story with so-and-so and the interview with Joma and what came about. So it really stemmed back from my days with news.
Wow. And I can definitely relate because, my parents grew up with oldies and Art Laboe. And I remember, when I did make the right choices and I, dabbled with gangs for a while and stuff. And that was just the music that we were just drawn to, the old school. And, I look back now and oldies has become a very important piece of my family and my family's healing. I have 3 girls. And for me, it's a reflection back of just where I was and then where I've the progress that I made. It's almost like a flashback to high school and just you're just a knucklehead and just running around, but just reminiscing on those experiences and saying like, man, have the opportunity to do whatever you want, no matter where you come from or the choices that you make. You shouldn't let your where you came from define who you are.
Mhm.
And to me, it's almost like nostalgic because it just reminds me of that's my story, that's my journey. And every time I put on oldies, like I said, and then of course being in high school and making dedications to the girls and stuff. So hey, getting my cassette player and hitting record and hey, I've got something for you. So, but no,
Oh, that's
the power of music.
awesome. I have a few oldies mixtapes of my own. I still have them. I have the clear cassettes. I believe
Oh
I had a white one. Things that you could just record on, and then I would record over other ones as well. I was like, I'm not going to use this one. I'll just record over it. So I did. So I have my oldies mixtapes and stuff that I would listen to in high school with my friends. I remember one time, one of my good friends that I grew up with, her name is Yoli, and she introduced me years ago to oldies and whatnot. And we would go into her room during our high school years, listen to oldies, and we'd be tagging on her wall in her bedroom. No joke. That's what we would do. Like, oh, I love so and so or whatever. That was the decor in her room. So she always has a place in my heart and whatnot. But yeah, we all go back and stuff, and it's just that's the beauty of it, the generational thing, especially with Latinos, Chicanos, however you identify. That's just what it was for us. Yeah.
It's funny. Just triggered a thought because I think about how many, in my junior high school and even high school years, how many hours I spent crying to oldies. Oh my gosh, just broken heart, that puppy love. And, how many times you think about a breakup and then you put on the songs and you just add salt to the wound. So, those
Oh,
memories.
God. confess, I broke up with a boyfriend over a dedication. I dedicated Kiss and Say Goodbye, and he did hear it. It was on the local oldie
Wow.
station. His best friend called me and I was like, "Did you just make a dedication?" I said, "Yeah." "Oh, well, we heard it. We were doing our homework and he heard it and he's crying." And I was just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know how to do
Wow.
it." But I broke up with him over the radio. Yeah.
Goodness, you're a heartbreaker. Oh, oh, Becky Lou, you grew up in the lower desert out in the Coachella Valley.
Mhm.
Tell us about childhood, growing up, and, what was your inspiration to kind of go into media and then eventually into radio?
I grew up with my mom and dad who just loved music. My dad was an aspiring radio DJ. He would go to internships in LA and he would DJ our family parties and he went all out with the decorations. He would play music in English and in Spanish. And my mom was a dancer and just loved it. They each had dozens and dozens, thousands upon thousands of records. No joke. Seriously, they did. I just remember locking myself in a room, little girl, 4 or 5 years old, listening to oldies, Motown music, all that stuff that my mom had. That's the way I just connected. That was my getaway as a little girl, as, what is it? Not a toddler, but 4 years old. I don't remember what you call them, and just listening to my dad's music. So that's how my mom and dad got together, from the music, and that's how I became educated, I would say, on all types of music and genres, and it stemmed from my childhood. It really did. Yeah. My dad didn't become
Oh,
the radio DJ. Life happens and he got married and he had my brother and he lived his life, I wish he would have, but my father is no longer with us. And in a way, I guess you can say that I'm living his dream today. Yeah.
absolutely. Now, did your father get to see you transition into the Art Laboe Connection, or had he already passed?
No, my father passed when I was 20 years old. He was 40 years old. He saw my son
Okay.
a few times. My son was a little baby. And that was that. Yeah, so to this day, I just have my beautiful memories of my father. Unfortunately, I don't have any pictures of my son as a little baby with his grandfather, but I do tell him a
Mm.
lot of stories. Yeah.
You know, when I was scrolling through your Instagram, just kind of getting to know Becky Lou better, I stumbled on this Father's Day post that you did. Oh my gosh, and it was so powerful because you paid tribute to him, and there was a sentence in there that really really touched at me, and I just want to read it. It says, "You always made me feel special. He always made me special whenever I spent time with him. He kept all the Father's Day cards I made him as a kid. I was his only daughter. I love you and I miss you, Dad." Ah, just a powerful way to honor him, and just to also they see that you talked about the music, and just the strobe lights, and just how he just decorated. It made me think about, man, he was really in touch with his inner child. Like, he was just, because that's my big thing, is the inner child. I feel that you know all of our trauma, hurt, pain, and even our joy comes from our
Mhm.
childhood. And just when you wrote the post and you were describing him, like, man, I don't know what his journey was, but what it sounds like he just always kept that little boy alive inside. And that post right there just kind of confirmed it. But
Mhm.
if you'd like to touch on that.
Yeah, he really was. My tias would tell me so many stories about my dad growing up. He was a creative. He was a natural creative. When an idea would come to him, he would just act on it. He would film, pretend he was a director, and he have all 10 of my tias acting in his his little productions, and they dress up and everything. Yeah, or he would sing. He was always playing music. He was always doing something. My dad just had that magic spark inside of him. And I could see it as a little girl, but I didn't know what it was. I just knew there was something magical about my dad. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like I love this. And now, as an adult, of course, I understand what it was and everything about him. And I'm blessed that he left that instilled in me. So in a way, old school Becky Lu is in my blood. It's always been inside of me. And here it is today.
And it's just kind of in hearing that story, it's where your influence came from. It was from your parents, and how it just kind of influenced your love for music and um, the different genres.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm very appreciative of all the music that I grew up listening to because I love all sorts of music. Motown, as I mentioned before, is one of my favorites because that's what my tias and my tios, that's what they listened to growing up. They loved that soul music and whatnot. Tammy Terrell, Marvin Gaye, The Temptations, The Four Tops. I loved listening to that, especially The Temptations. I didn't know, like, okay, Papa was a Rolling Stone. I didn't know what that meant, but I would rewind that song, no joke, over and over because of the intro, because that bass line. As a little kid, I would just feel it. But oh my goodness, that will always, always have a piece of my heart, really. But I love all types of music.
Now, I noticed you referenced a song in one of your interviews, and I can resonate with the song, so I wanted to ask you about it. And it's called "I'm Still Here." I got to ask you where that comes from because it seems like that was a very powerful and impactful song for you. And I'm just curious, how that came about or the story behind that.
That goes back to my news days when I would lock myself in the edit bays. That song, there's just
Mm.
something about it, as sad as it is. There's something about the melody and just the rhythm and the way that it was composed that really just drew me. So that soothed me. Despite the lyrics, that's just what I would listen to. Soft songs like that, just to help calm me down after a long, stressful day and stuff. And that was one that I would just always go back to and even fall asleep to. As I
Mm.
mentioned, I had to work at 3 a.m. at the news station. So I'd go to sleep 11, 12 o'clock, and I would fall asleep to Art Laboe, listening to him and just soothing me as well. But that's where that song comes from, and that's why it'll just always resonate with me.
No, and definitely relate. To me, that song is kind of like a phoenix rising from the ashes. During one of my most difficult times is when I felt everybody was against me and the doors were closing,
Mm.
and just to play that song, like "I'm Still Here," um, just had a powerful undertone to just remind myself, like, nothing's going to break you, nothing's going to stop you. You're in control of your destiny. And so I can definitely relate, you know.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. See, there's our connection. Yeah.
So this, I see that you go to a lot of community events and fundraisers, and I mean, you just don't stop, girl. You're like an Energizer bunny. Just go, 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 go. You know? And it's awesome because, the energy and the flavor that you take, and I just gotta reemphasize that energy that you bring, and just always seeing you out there, and the connection you're making with the past and the present. How's that? Because oldies, of course, is of an older generation, and I'll end this with this part with the story. Is I was driving with my daughter a couple weeks ago. We decided to go to Universal Studios. I did
Oh.
my kids, and I put on oldies, but these were like old Radio Veterano oldies, like the old, the East Side Story, right? Not the Motown, mainstream. And I'm like, where are you getting these oldies from? She's like, no, this is what she used to play for us, and I love this. I'm like,
Oh.
wow. So it was just kind of a wake up call because I always thought she was more into the Motown, but didn't know that she went deeper into the radio oldies. And so that was pretty cool. She's like, no, I listen to this is one of my playlists I listen to every week.
Oh.
Like, wow. So the influence that we had on her and just seeing that it stuck, um, what are you doing to kind of glue that connection between the past and the present with this new generation coming up?
Well, I would say it all stems from the families who listen to us because the Art Laboe Connection has always been generational, starting from the 50s, and that got passed down up until now. We have new callers, young callers who are part of our different affiliate stations. They're like, wow, we found your radio station. Oh, we love your music. Or we have callers that go back to Art Laboe years, and they'll send us messages on social media. Oh, we've been married 60 some years. I am this age and my husband's this age. And our love has been cemented by Art Laboe and by the oldies and stuff. And so that's what the connection is really with the generations. We have Insta stories of fathers who are recording their kids singing in the background, or kids who are falling asleep to the music. Or there's a couple of kids who have their own page and they do all oldies, and they do little skits and stuff like that. It's really neat. So that's where all of that comes from. It's just beautiful that the music, that's the key. That's what everything is right here. That just is the glue, is the foundation that this man created for everybody, and it's still going. So it's just magic. It's the radio magic. Definitely. Thank you. Thank you, Art Laboe.
I love radio magic. It's almost like you're the Latina Delilah. Because I remember listening to Delilah and saying, Art Laboe's coming on, time to switch. So,
Oh, I'm Delilah.
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 Absolutely. You know, a big segment, of your listeners are probably fathers that have struggled, working class and different, socioeconomic backgrounds and so forth. How do you think this music helps to, I want to say heal them, but just how it keeps them going? Is it inspiration for them? Is it a connection to their past? Any thoughts on that?
I would have to say it's both of what you're saying, because it could be a way where they're connecting with their kids, listening to the music, and that's helping them heal some trauma, or maybe it could just be a way for them to remove themselves from whatever's going on, but definitely I believe it's the two meshed together. And it's just magic how that works, even allowing somebody just to listen to the music, or just allow the song or whatever minister to them, because that's what it's doing. It's ministering. It's playing a service. It's playing a role in people's lives. And some may not know that it's happening, but it's there. And others, they may be sharing that with somebody else. You never know. But that's just my thoughts on that.
No, I love that, and I love how you just your perspective of their ministering,
Mhm.
because man, when you listen to these songs from the past, whew, they go deep, and they tell a story.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I just honestly feel that just the sound behind it, the way that you think about Shirley Brown and Betty Wright and how they went back and forth, and man, there was a story to be told, and but just how the music, the instrumental behind, was just, it made it so powerful and impactful that a lot of times people are like, oh shit, they're talking about my story. So,
Yeah,
but
storytelling. That's what the
story,
music was back in the day. And that's what, like you said, oh, they're telling my story. You never know what story, what song, whatever, who connected with who. You could be listening to a Marvin Gaye song, or you could be listening to whoever. You're just like, oh my goodness, yeah, like I'm gonna wallflower, I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna dance. Or you're like, oh, hey, my family was like that. Or there's just something right there. I'm so glad that we're having this conversation and we can touch about all this, because I'm sure people who are watching this will definitely relate and resonate. This is gonna stick with them somehow. So it's beautiful how it's gonna touch some people. Yeah.
Yeah. In my household when my kids were growing up and stuff, and a song that could not be played is "Me and Mrs. Jones,"
Oh,
and that's because of just some poor choices I made in my marriage. And yeah, that was a no-no song, and that you want to trigger a fight. Like I said, yes, music can be healing, but that would start fighting our household. I
oh
think
yeah.
even to this
No trigger music. No triggering here.
time.
Keep the
But
peace.
yeah, so it can have powerful effects, but it can also have negative effects. Because it can with oldies music, because there's a lot of positivity, but there's a lot of sad songs where they're just sharing their story, and it can bring up a lot of trauma, a lot of breakups and infidelity and different things, and
Hmm.
uh so I think too it's but it's part of the journey. It's part of the journey. And but yeah, it can go sideways sometimes. You
Yeah.
can be at a party, you're having a good time, and a song comes on and shit's gonna go down.
Right?
So,
Like for my Nina and my Nino, their song was Love on a Two-Way Street. When that song
mm,
came on, it was just like, oh, that's like that was their no song, but I loved it and I would listen to it. But that always like stuck with me. Like, oh, there's that song. Yeah, yeah. And another one is You Cheated, You Lied. That
oh,
yeah, that talk about a heartbreaker.
man, hey, for all you fathers out there that are trying to rekindle your relationship, edit the playlist. Edit the playlist. Get the list of songs that Becky Lou's going to be playing beforehand, because don't like that family barbecues. So,
Right? You got to get
oh,
ready. People get ready. Hmm.
yeah. How can and I'm just gonna focus on fathers. How can fathers start to build that love for the music from the past, for the nostalgia? What are some things they can do to not lose? Because I honestly feel that the oldies, it's a part of our identity. It's a part of identity. It's a part of our story, but it's an influx of memories. Like when I listen to oldies, it's memories. Sometimes it's about an ex-girlfriend, sometimes it's just about being with the homies, sometimes it's just about sometimes I would listen to oldies before an interview, because
Hmm.
that would pump me up. And it's like, okay, because it reminded me of, like, man, this is where I was and this is where I'm at. So a lot of different little strategies that I did to kind of build myself up. But what do you think a father can do, and maybe not just father, it could just be families, to make sure that the oldies doesn't die?
So, well, like our Super Sunday special, you go cruising with your family. You just have that little outing, whether it's to the store or whatever, wherever it may be. That's a way that families can connect, or that's the way the fathers can connect, or just really get something going right there. Maybe just go to the park. My family always used to go to the park, and we would always have the big radio and batteries, of course, backup batteries. And we would always sit under a tree at a certain park in Palm Springs, and that was our spot. So, I mean, there's stuff like that fathers can do to connect or to heal or whatever it may be. And I think your answer can resonate with some fathers as well. Maybe right there you answered your own question, Edward, because
Yeah,
it could be
it
relatable.
no, absolutely, and it triggered two memories. One is definitely taking them. Like I'm big on going to concerts in the park,
Mm.
because I love all the old school music. So taking my kids to concerts in the park, when they're even now, I call my daughter up, like, hey, Pershing, East LA this Thursday there's an event, and then Saturday at Pershing Park. So, like, let's go. Um, so a shout out to you, fathers, mothers, take your kids out to these concerts in the parks, to these events. But also, when you were talking, it just triggered an event. My dad, when we grew up, my dad wasn't as present as I would like him to be. And, he had all the old cars, the bombs and so forth, and he would work on them. But you know what he didn't do is he didn't include me. And now it makes you just thinking back, it's something I missed out on. So I just want to give a PSA announcement to you fathers that have that passion for working our cars, that are in these different lowrider clubs. Include your kids. It's not just about the guys getting together and hanging out and reminiscing, but include your kids, make them a part of the experience. Go out there and hang out for the day. And what a beautiful, powerful memory to be able to share with your kids that they can look back on when they're older and just like, oh, I remember going to the lowrider car shows or to the different events and sitting out with picnic chairs and just barbecuing, but not just with the guys, but with the kids, but with the family. So yeah, that just kind of triggered a moment of a way that we can keep it alive too is don't forget about the kids, make them a part of the experience.
Right. A cousin of mine, her husband is part of a local lowrider club out here. And their son, little Simon, he's very involved. He loves Hoppets. When he was little, he had the Hoppet toys. My cousin Gina has a lowrider. Her husband has a lowrider. Even the little one, they're working on getting a car fixed up for him and stuff like that. But I just think it's beautiful what you're saying, because my family is very lucky to have that element and share that with each other. And now this is something that my little cousin, little Simon, can pass on to his kids and stuff like that. And our local lowrider clubs, I got to give it up because they do include their kids, and there's always Sunday picnics, and there's always this and that. And I've gone to a few, and just to support or just to go out for an event or something. And it's just like, wow, like it's big out here. It really is. Just like I'm sure there is in different areas and whatnot. There's so many awesome car clubs. Kudos to all the car clubs that are doing it, in SoCal, NorCal, wherever you may be watching this. Yeah, that's what's up. Just keep it going. So I wanted to share that. I'm just very lucky to have family members who do that, and they're the only ones really in my family who are into the lowriders. But that's really cool to have that element and to be able to share that with them. I went into my cousin Gina's lowrider and she's like, hit the switch. And I'm like, hit the switch. I'm like, she has like 5 switches, and I'm like, hit the switch. Hit the switch. And I'm going like side to side, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. But I loved it. It was so thrilling. And little Simon comes in and is just like, yeah, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Even my cousin Gina, the one, who's married to someone her husband in the lowrider club. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
It's beautiful. And it's so nice that, they finally repealed that law about cruising,
Mm-hmm.
something that was just a slap in the face to our culture. And to be able to just go out and do something that it was just going out, listening to music and just cruising and showing off the pride and beauty that you put into your car and the time and work, the money and just, so to be able to now be able to go out and do that is beautiful because, for many years, it's almost like, how can you make this illegal? Like this is a part of our genre. This is a part of history.
Yeah, definitely. I just see all these posts now in LA surrounding areas and whatnot. There's cruising Sundays back, and they just get together in San Diego or up north. Sacramento has a big club or a big scene and stuff too. So I'm just glad that it's being embraced, and the lowrider culture is just very much alive and it's thriving, and it's beautiful that our people can just keep it up and do what they love and just share that. It's exciting. I love it. I love the cultura. Yes, thank you, Rafa.
Yes. No, I went to La Puente High School. I had to finish up at Pioneer High School in Whittier. But it was a big thing of cruising, Whittier Boulevard and, Lake and all this. So just what a time to just create memories and just, be with, and this is, like I said, pre-social media and Instagram and all this stuff. But, our way of communicating was with these street beat magazines and different magazines with all the party crews and car clubs and, so man, fun times, this new generation, man, it's unfortunate they're never going to get to experience, what a real house party was like, So,
Oh my gosh, don't get me started in the house parties. That's a whole nother thing.
You know, we're in a place right now where, um, times are hard, with the economy and so forth, and everything's so damn expensive. I went to I try not to eat fast food, okay, but tell you a funny story. I went to Carl's Jr. the other day. A meal was like $16. What the heck, for just a basic, meal. And yeah, it just reminded me that you know, things are so expensive nowadays, and a lot of times as families, we create these obstacles that, oh, we really can't go out and do anything, because it's too expensive. But it's just going back and finding these activities that you can do for free. Something as simple as going to the park and spending time with the
Mhm.
family, like your family used to do. Going to these car show events. I saw that a couple of months ago, the concerts were like $25-$30. Live Nation did a special where you could go to Art Laboe, different concerts.
Yeah.
So, I just, want to remind, families, parents out there that you don't need a lot of money to go out there and create memories with their children. There's all kinds of different things going on that you can just get out and make those memories, because our kids don't care about the things, you know. What they care about is spending time with their mom and dad. And I think that right there, just a part of what you guys are doing with the Art Laboe Connection and just going out there to the different events and just keeping it alive. It's beautiful because it's bringing community together. It's honoring the culture, but at the end of the day, the underlying theme is family.
Hmm.
What it is, it's family. And that's beautiful. So hats off to you and the whole team at the Art Laboe Connection, because whether it's fundraising events, whether it's the car shows, whether it's just all kinds of different activities, keep the music alive. That's powerful. That's powerful.
Yeah, and the kids, they're going to remember the experience and how it made them feel, no matter how little, whether it was free or whatever little or whatever, however much money you spent. It's that experience and that feeling that they're always going to remember, So yeah, just any little thing is possible, and any little thing counts. Everybody's different. Everybody makes their memories in their own way. And I'm sure the kids and the parents are grateful for the experiences that they had as kids that they can now share and make with their kids.
Mm. What's one of your either childhood or early youth memories that when you think about that experience, how it reminds you of your dad?
um well, my dad was always there for me. I i would say my dad was in my life. I didn't grow up with my dad because as I had mentioned earlier, he married my stepmom and had my brother. So I grew up with my mom and my grandmother. But anytime I wanted to see my father, they would call him and he would come and pick me up and he'd take me to the park. He'd take me to play. He bought me a lot of jewelry as a teenager because that's just what he was into. So my dad was always there. He really was. But because I guess he wasn't like a permanent fixture in my life, it does affect me, and I wish we could have spent more time together because he would always say, just reach out and I'll be there. And I did, but not as often as I wish I should have. And as I grew up and as when I became a teenager, um, I guess in a way I just kind of resented him. I became resentful towards him for whatever reason. Maybe it was teenage angst, but there was a time where I removed myself from my dad's family for a long time, and I wish I hadn't. But then when I had my son, I felt it was very important to include him with them.
It's that ego and pride that gets us. Um, my oldest daughter is 27, and we didn't talk for 6 years. We didn't talk for 6 years because of just some decisions she made that I didn't agree with. And I look back on all these missed times and opportunities, And there's a time that she really needed me. She was in an abusive relationship, and but sometimes, not that this is an excuse for fathers, because this whole platform came from how I raised my kids. I was a narcissist. I was so busy with building my career that I didn't show up for my kids. And we're on the process of healing. So this is where the journey comes from, is now starting to try to change the dynamic. So maybe other fathers will do it sooner than I did, where now my kids are adults. And now it's a lot harder when they're adults to try to, heal that relationship, because the trauma has already been done, the hurt, the pain. But you know, what would be your message as a daughter, that and this is to fathers out there, because the one thing is, I want fathers to see this, that maybe aren't present with their children in their life, and especially girls, because you know the love of a father is the first love that a daughter has. And that's how it sets kind of the tone for their relationships, for just as they're growing up. And what message would you give to fathers that maybe aren't showing up for the kids, to just help them to see, or maybe just um, some tips on how that impacts, you know, children, how it impacted you, you know?
Well, when fathers aren't present, there's a piece that's missing and will always be missing from your daughter or your son or whatever, and they're going to want to fill that void somehow. Yes, it does create trauma. Yes, it does create resentment and stuff, but I mean, just little things. Um, Maybe just having little talks with them, or just giving them a pat on the back.
Yeah,
Yeah, it'll help. Because I wish, even though my dad was there for me, I wish I did it more. And I mean, I do have issues because of it. Like, I'm not like toxic or crazy or anything, honestly. But I do have issues that I deal with because I didn't have my mom and dad weren't together. So I didn't have that father figure. So yeah, to this day I'm still affected by it. But I just went, like I said, when I had my son, I wanted to make sure that his grandfather knew who he was. So I would take him to go visit my dad, and he saw my son as a little baby a few times before he passed. He even saw my son for the last time when he was in the hospital. But I made sure that before my dad passed, that he saw my son. And my son, his dad and I are not together, but his dad married another woman, and he grew up with that family. So he grew up with a mom and a dad, a stepmom and a dad, and then he grew up with me as the single mom. So he has that relationship with us, and he was raised by two strong women. Uh, um, but he's in a loving relationship, and he and his dad, fortunately, very fortunately, they have a good relationship and they speak all the time. But my son has what I didn't have. He had the stability. Even though his dad and I were not together, he had his stepmom. He had that marriage element, and they each gave him love, and I gave him my love. So it's something that I admire and I love about my son, but I guess I will never have that. That's something that I just would never be able to experience or connect with. But I see that he has it. So it's special.
You know, and I'm going to challenge you on that. I'm going to challenge you on that, because a father shows up in many different ways, and it's not just a biological person. It could be somebody that just had an impact or influence your life. It could be a grandfather, a tío, it could be a coach, it could be a teacher. So, we get so stuck with, oh, my father, but there's a lot of fathers that aren't present. And a father doesn't always show up the way that the movies, portrayed, or that TV shows portrayed. sometimes your father, if I would challenge you to reflect back on your life and look at those strong males that were influential in your life that you looked up to, that you respected, because I would probably say that you probably had a army of fathers out there, but you just never connected the two.
Yeah.
So something to reflect on.
Yeah. I've
Um,
always had that disconnect. And so I guess that's why I'm single too to this day. But I mean, that's not a PSA or anything, I'm just saying, I don't get into a lot of relationships. I really don't date. And I'm 45 years old and I've been single for a long time. But that's probably because of those issues that resonate within me from my dad. Yeah. So that's
yeah.
trauma that I have to heal.
Oh, absolutely, and a lot of that comes from a strong, successful Latina. It's scary to a lot of men. When you have to step into your masculine, and it's scary because a lot of men just don't know how to handle a strong woman, and that creates friction. You said something that really stood out, and you said that although you and your son, you two, weren't together, your parents, you and the father of your son. But then he married and started, a new family and so forth. So your son had that family component. You know, one of the things that we need to remind ourselves, whether it's a woman or the man, is that if our partners do go off and find that family component, that we have to be there to support it. We have to be there to support it because it's our kids that are gonna either they're gonna embrace it, they're gonna be
Mhm.
successful with it, or it's gonna work backwards. And so many times we're so quick to throw wrenches in the relationship and negative talk and all these things. And we have to stop doing that. We have to stop doing that because we have to give our children
Yeah.
uh, the chance that we didn't have.
Mhm.
And the only way to give them that success to help increase their success is to not, I'm going to say shit on the other relationship, um, because we got to be to support them. It's not about us. Once we have children, it's not about us anymore, but it's about our children.
Mm.
So I'm glad that you recognize that and that you you saw that he was able to get that component, and not to dismiss anything that you've done because, like I said, it's all powerful. Um, from both sides. So your son was blessed to get different experiences. As a single mom that also had to play dad too. You play multiple roles, and then dad, is playing his role.
What's funny hearing you talk about all of this right now? It's kind of like, okay, you became my therapist. And I'm just gonna say this. Okay, so I see a pattern there, where um my mom and dad weren't together. My dad remarried, obviously. My son's dad remarried and whatnot. And my mom stayed single. I stayed single. My brother is 8 years younger than me. My son's stepbrother, or half brother, I should say, is 8 years younger than him. So it's just funny how all of it just kind of came out right now. But hey, it's not a traumatic cycle, but there's a cycle there that I just realized, or a pattern, I guess, whatever you want to call it. That's funny how all of this just came up right now.
Yeah, it's an ancestral lineage, that passes on from generation to generation. And I'm going to challenge you. I don't know if you journal or meditate or dabble in any of the new age type of newer things, but meditating and journaling, man, what a powerful experience to be able to just go back to, and I'm going to say to little Becky, and just to love her and hug her and just let her know that, man, it's okay, and just to rewrite your story because as I've dabbled into this, oh, all this research about the inner child and the outer child, and I just am a strong proponent that all this shit that goes on in our lives, all the highs, the lows, it all stems back from our inner child. It stems back to trauma points, waiting for
Mhm.
your dad to pick you up and he doesn't pick you up. And, oh, no, it doesn't affect me. But deep down inside, it does affect you,
Yeah.
and just something as simple as, yeah, you were a teenager. You maybe didn't reach out to your dad like you want, now in retrospect that he's gone and you're older, but that he's gone. Now you look back and go, man, and maybe a lot of it was ego and pride because that's what hinders the relationships. And I look at my relationship with my dad, and we're on a path to healing. But it's taken a long time and a lot of journeys with plant medicine and so forth. But I remember demanding, like, I need you to call me every week or every 2 weeks. But then when I sat back and I go, but it's a two-way street.
Mhm.
Why can't I do it too? And so that's just a message for you kids out there that are upset with your fathers, even mothers, because you don't have that connection. Just know that if you want to be pissed off at someone, be pissed off at your great great grandfather because all this was learned behavior. Think about it. Your dad only showed up the way he knew how to show up because of how his father showed up. So if you go back and dive into the history, maybe ask your tias or tios that are still alive, how your dad's dad showed up or how their dad showed up, you'll probably see that it's just
Mhm.
a pattern.
Mhm.
It's a pattern. We hold our parents to these expectations on how we want to be loved because we watch these movies and TV shows. But the reality is that's not how life works. And then we're angry and resentful. But the reality is, no, there's no instruction manual. I didn't show up for my kids because we grew up in poverty and so struggled. So my thing was no. I had this mindset of just always wanting to hoard, always needing to create money because it was going to run out because it was run out. But in the process,
Mhm.
I lost connection with my girls because it was always, oh, I got to earn, I got to earn. When in reality, all my girls wanted was they wanted my time.
Mhm.
And so, you know, sorry to get on this tangent, but it just triggered. Um, just for you fathers out there, your kids want your time. And, kids are going to say things that maybe they don't mean, but just that's your creation. Pick up the goddamn phone and call them. And children, put your pride aside and just call your fathers. And if it means connecting it through music, you can sit down and just listen to music and not even talk. So we've done that many times in our household. We just listen to music when we're upset with each other. And then the music just had a way of just bringing down the walls. Actually, now that I think about it, there's a lot of times I'm just kind of putting that into perspective. There's a lot of times where we didn't want to get together for like a Sunday dinner, but the music comes on and then it just, whatever we were upset about, it just kind of melted. And then we just sing to the music and then we just kind of carried on in the present and left the past behind us. So, wow, what a
Oh, wow. Oh, thank you for
self.
sharing that. And it's very important the role that the fathers do play in the child's life because just a quick little backstory here. Um, my father passed when my son, or excuse me, when my brother he was 11 or he was 12. And that affected my brother to where he went to the streets. And my brother grew up in rough neighborhoods. He was a gang member and this and this and that, and he was incarcerated for a lot of his life. But that's just the impact that losing his dad at such a young age happened because he didn't have anybody to turn to except for his friends in the streets. So yeah, my brother was into drugs and all that stuff, but that's just where I'm going to leave it, but it's very important for the man to be in their child's life. Yeah, I think if our dad was still alive, there was no way my dad would have allowed that. And I think my brother would have been a different person. He's in my dad's, or excuse me, my dad. Look at this. I can't even talk. My brother is an adult now and he has 3 kids of his own. But he's living his life and he's happy, but that's just the path. And that was just a little something since we're talking about that. I just felt, thank you for allowing me to share that. Yeah.
And I just saw that you just posted he just celebrated a birthday yesterday with his
Yeah.
3 kids and cool pics. And do you ever pull him aside and just have real talk beyond the surface talk and about topics like this? Just like, hey, bro, just want to let just that real deep talks because I know with my brother, my brother's, I'm 50, my brother's 40, and it's only in the last year because I wasn't there for my kids, I wasn't there for my brother, so I was just in my own
Mhm.
world, unfortunately, and now I'm suffering the consequences of it. So, but it's only in the last year that we're starting to connect, and I'm really getting to know my brother, and it's peeling away from the surface level conversations where we talk for 2-3 minutes. Hey, how are you doing? It's because like it's almost like the thing you do, but we're having deep talk now, and I'm starting to learn about him. Um, have you started those conversations with your brother?
Honestly, I have not.
Okay.
My brother can be a little rough sometimes. So I feel that it would be a little hard for me to really discuss things or share things and stuff beyond the surface level. And I'm sure he would want to, and that would help heal him, but I don't think my brother knows how to.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um,
I'm gonna I'm gonna give you guys so we have a journal that we created, and this journal was so that children could ask their fathers questions. Because a lot of us don't have the relationship with our father. It's a very surface level. So we created this journal that every week you ask them a different question. Who was your best friend in school? What was something you like to do? Will you start to peel the layers? And I'm going to make sure that Lauren sends you that. So
okay.
the PDF. So I would challenge you to do it with your brother because the questions they start off just very soft, but then they dive into different things about truly getting to know who they are. And it's beautiful because if you don't have that type of relationship, it almost creates it in a very not uncomfortable way. Because we're just going to do this 52-week journal, and I'm going to just ask you questions every week, and then you start to get to know them. And what I found is, as I've gone through the questions, like the connection that's happening. We thought maybe something might happen, but we didn't realize that it's opening up conversations that probably never would have happened in this lifetime.
Mhm.
And that's a beautiful way to start that, you know, because it's going to open up conversations that you're like, "Ah, I want to ask this, but we just don't have that, kind of connection upon.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make sure we get that to you.
No, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. Because my brother and I, we were never really close. We saw each other when we saw each other. And when he started having kids, I tried to be in his life. But then um, he was still doing a little bit of time. So we just had that relationship. And then when he was finally like free of everything, then I would go visit him and stuff like that. But it's just, I do want to get to know my brother, and I'm sure he wants to get to know me too and stuff. His mom, my stepmom, follows me on Facebook, so she knows everything that I'm doing, and I'm sure she shows him, this is what your sister's doing and this and that. But it would be nice to have that actual brother and sister relationship. Yeah, to just heal some
Yeah.
stuff too. Because that's our dad right there. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And to be able to heal it in this lifetime would be great. Otherwise, you're going to have to deal with this shit in the next lifetime.
Oh gosh.
So
Oh no.
better now than.
I know. Oh, you're so
Yeah.
welcome, Edward. Thank you so
You know,
much.
no, you take these dedications from people in from different places. Sometimes they're incarcerated, sometimes they're in institutions, sometimes they're just at home. But is there a dedication that maybe has passed through your hands in the last couple of years that just really impacted you? Um, any ones that stand out? They're just like, wow, that really resonated with me.
Um, I would have to say, yes, like in the beginning. I can't think of like one specific one right now, but I remember in the beginning, I would go through the mail. And there would just be regular, just letters, love letters and whatnot. And then of course we have our incarcerated fans and stuff. But I would go through all of this mail, and I would just think to myself, wow, they're really telling their stories here because they have nobody else to talk to, or they feel that whatever the case may be. And you would just hear all kinds of stuff, and it's like, oh my goodness, that's what really resonates me, because I'm just like, it's just little old me doing this, and these people don't even know you, and they're just sharing all kinds of stuff. So in the beginning, it was very touching. Well, I shouldn't say in the beginning, excuse me. It still is touching, but in the beginning, it was just so fresh and so new that I couldn't help but to cry when I would read all kinds of letters. Just thank you letters and I love you letters and stuff. We got everything, and it was just, it was definitely, there was definitely a connection there. It was just, I can't even describe it. But I'm very thankful and blessed and grateful to be able to be the one to be the person on the other side of all of these letters from everybody who writes in. Yeah, especially the fan mail. Hmm.
Just sharing that, just a thought came to my mind. When people are vulnerable and are willing to share in these letters or in this dedication, I honestly am making the connection now, and you probably made it before, but sometimes maybe people don't know how to express themselves, but that song is the words that they're trying to get out.
Yeah.
And, because I know when I would, do a dedication, I would listen to the words to see, okay, is this the message I'm trying to send out? I'm not trying to break up with someone, like, but, is this a message I want to send out? And I would pick that right. So I was very, well, not just me, but I think anybody in general is just very focused, laser focused about, okay, is this the words to the song that I want to get out? Maybe I don't know how to express it, but the song says it for me. So by doing that dedication, not only is it just, hey, I want to give this dedication to you, but this is how I'm feeling. And maybe I say it, but it goes in one ear and out the other. But let the song talk for itself, because the music triggers the emotions, and that right there could have a bigger, longer lasting impact than anything I could vocalize.
Yeah, it's very true. Just what you were saying, I mean, like with those dedications and the letters and we do get dedications or callers that just their message is, please listen to the words of this song. And we just play the song, or just simply, this one's for you, because they can't express it, or that's what music's for, right? Music translates all kinds of stuff.
What's one oldie song that is a reflection of your father and your experience with him? What would be that song?
I can't think of a song for my dad right now, but I'm going to tell you one person that did remind me of my dad. When, like I said, I just saw that magic in him, and just, I knew there was something special about him. But Prince in the 80s always reminded me of my dad. And when I would see the album covers or videos, I'd be like, oh my God, there's my dad. And my dad would dress up, and he did when he was younger, he had the little mustache, and then it became like a lot bigger and stuff. But that described my dad. Yeah. Yeah. Freddie Mercury, all that. Like, I love it. I love it. That's what reminds me of my father. He just had that in him. Yeah.
Well, I can honestly say, just by you describing him, you are a fitting image of your father, because you have that energy too. You have that fire, that, like I said, just that incredible energy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's cool. I'm like, oh man, see, now I gotta turn it on more. Turn it on more. We're gonna turn Becky Lu all the way up. That's right. Let me put my platforms on. Let's go. Let's go.
So where can people find you if they want to listen to the Art Laboe Connection? I know there's a lot of local radio stations. You guys have been syndicated a lot of different places, but where can people find you to listen to, like I said, the nostalgia of the oldies and the old school, and just to hear just your flair on how you're keeping the Art Laboe Connection alive?
Well, we do have over 12 affiliate stations who air our show in different areas, from Central California to Arizona to Southern California. In the LA area, you can listen on Sundays to 93.5 KD from 6 to midnight. And then from Monday through Thursday, you can listen on Old School 104.7. Online, you can find us on social media, on Facebook, Art Laboe Connection, on Instagram, Art Laboe Connection, and Old School Becky Lu. We have our own pages. Yeah, and then right there we have all of the stations that are listed, on the times that are listed. You can stream. There's free streaming. There's websites. But definitely go to Facebook and Instagram, Art Laboe Connection or Old School Becky Lu, and you can find all of that information. We air 5 days a week with Art Laboe's voice still on the show, reading your dedications from the past. Definitely, we've got a big vault of Art Laboe dedications that we play every night. So that comfort of his voice, and he was just always a family member to people that still consider him a family member. That just brings them comfort, and it's like nothing ever happened, and that's what keeps the connection going as well.
Wow. In a way, um, what you just said is he was a father to many. He was a father to many, and his connection and being able to bring that music to the forefront is what helped to. I'm going to take it further, saying wasn't just a connection, but he was able to help bond and heal families, because I honestly believe that the power of music can heal families.
Yeah,
And it's
definitely.
it's
It brings communities together. It really does. The music brings communities together. It brings all kinds of people together. It's just that unity, that component, that one element that we just need. And it brings the love, it brings the peace, even if only for a moment or two. That's what we have right there until, until reality hits or we go our separate ways or whatever, but music is magic. It really, really is. I don't know what I
I
would
think
do
music
without
is
him.
therapy. I think music is therapy too. So
Yeah,
it could be a
it really is. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. And oh, my hat's off to the first creators of music, of everything, the pioneers of music. So, of course, to our king of the oldies, he was a pioneer as well with the requests and dedications.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on and just to dive into your journey and just to find out a little bit about your inspiration and love for the music and where it came from. Any closing thoughts as we start to bring this amazing episode to a close?
Well, if anybody is inspired to make a request or have a dedication, send it to their loved one, they can do so on our social media, or you can call us. Toll free number 1-800-681-2121. Get a hold of us. You can write in your dedications. Those are my closing thoughts. Let us connect you. Let us help heal you. Let us be there for you, because the Art Laboe Connection is a family. Every night I say, Art Laboe Familia, how are you doing? Because that's what we are. That's who we are. We are a community. We are. It's oldies. It's oldies keeping us all together. Yeah, and it's an honor to provide this service to our listeners and help heal and just connect.
Thank you so much, Old School Becky Lu. Beautiful to have her on the podcast and to just that she's keeping oldies alive. Thank you for sharing, for being so transparent. And with that, I look forward to seeing you somewhere in the community in the near future.
Oh, well,
Have a
anyways,
great evening.
I do love you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. We hope to see you at one of our concerts in the future soon. Or yeah, just we're going to connect and we're going to take a picture and be like, look, there he is. He's real.
Yeah. We're going to have to talk about you and a child, okay, in the future. So we'll be talking. So.
All right, my friend. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much. And thank you to all the listeners. Thank you to all the viewers. Just thank you for everybody giving us their time, hearing the stories, and just allowing us to ramble on and just have fun. And I hope this resonated with somebody.